I think it's very safe to say that my interest level in the WWE and frankly in professional wrestling as a whole in 2014 has dramatically decreased more than any year in recent memory. I'm at the point now where I'm at the end of 2014 and I find myself on a consistent basis sometimes wondering why I'm still spending time watching this stuff every week. And what is it that I'm not getting out of this product consistently? I know I'm not the only one in that boat. Um, it's been bad. I don't watch ROH, nor do I care to. I tried a couple of years ago. I gave that shit up. That's one company I used to watch that I don't anymore. I used to watch TNA, every week. Sometimes I actually have more fun watching TNA and doing TNA reviews. Well, stopped watching that shit and stopped reviewing that crap. So there you go. Started trying to get into NXT. Very quickly got bored with that. Wasn't into that, so I stopped watching that. I haven't watched SmackDown in a couple of years now. Pretty much the majority of the wrestling I watch now is the parts I can manage to tolerate and choke down from Raw each week, and then the pay-per-views that I half time grudgingly try to watch. I mean, it's just been my interest level has just dropped so dramatically, and I know you guys see it, and I know you guys can sense it. And there's just been a lot of things in 2014 that have really just soured me on professional wrestling as a whole. And one of them, beyond question, was the fact that the Undertaker's streak was broken at WrestleMania 30. That's not the only part. I won't even say that's a predominant part. It's just a part of it. Because in a way, it was one of those last things I had to cling to. It was one of those last things where I could just truly be a fan and not think about anything else, not care about anything else. It was just about Taker coming into Mania, wrestling at Mania, winning at Mania, and we'll see you next year doing it again. And now I don't have that anymore. Those few things I could grasp onto, I just don't have. And I mean, it's just the lack of star power in professional wrestling as a whole is bad. It's just the storytelling is atrocious. The booking is god awful. The writing is even worse. I mean, it's just bad. It just is completely bad. And I think about Taker's streak ending at WrestleMania 30, and we already know how I feel about that, and I won't really go into that. But once it happened, I was kind of like, well, now that the streak's broken, and I feel kind of like, in a way, that a burden was lifted off of me in the sense that he was the primary reason I wanted to watch WrestleMania every year. And now I was going to be forced to have to find new reasons. And, whether I wanted to admit it or not, it kind of had gotten to the point of very predictable that Taker would arrive every year, he'd wrestle at Mania, he'd win at Mania, and then we'll see you again in 10 or 11 months as we begin the process all over again. It kind of got repetitive and was getting to the point where it was even starting to lose just a tad bit of its appeal and luster. There's no question about that. I've always felt that maybe when they had the actual end of an era match at WrestleMania 28, that maybe that should have actually been the end of an era. But again, I'm at that point now where I don't even care that much if I see Taker wrestle anymore. I don't even really know if I want to see Taker ever wrestle again, frankly. And I most certainly don't know if I ever want to see Taker wrestle again at a WrestleMania. After over 2 decades of watching him at WrestleMania and seeing him never lose at WrestleMania, and now, frankly, the only reason we would ever see Undertaker was for him to defend the streak at WrestleMania, I just don't get it. I don't see the point. I don't see the purpose to him wrestling anymore. I don't see the purpose of him wrestling at WrestleMania. I understand from the WWE standpoint. They're paying Taker a lot of money to not do very much. They could always use that drawing power of Taker for their biggest show of the year. Understand, WWE is going to want to get a big time bang for their buck when they can. They want to get some type of return out of all that money that they dump into Taker. They want to continue to get a return on the over 2 decades of investment put into Mark Calloway and the Undertaker character. I understand that. And I see these reports that are coming out now that are talking about there's a possibility that The Undertaker could be slated to face Bray Wyatt at WrestleMania. And I just sit there and I look at that potential matchup, something that should be exciting, something that should be grabbing me, something that should read of so many levels of potential awesomeness. And I just feel myself saying, I'll pass. I just really don't want to see it. I mean, when you look at Bray Wyatt's character, frankly, at this point in time, what has he done as a character to in any way, shape, or form even come close to sniffing the butt cheese of getting a match against Taker at WrestleMania? I mean, his one WrestleMania match, he couldn't beat John Cena. And now you're going to send him up against Undertaker? Here's a character in Bray Wyatt that is really, really good. But the WWE seems to have lost its way quite a bit throughout 2014 with what they're going to do with them. And now you're talking about entering him into a program against a Taker who is old, who is beaten up, who is battered down, who no longer has a streak to cling onto. I just don't see a tremendous amount of appeal for me, anyways, in that matchup. I just really don't. And you know, that's sad. Because a year ago, if you would have told me before the streak ended that at some point in time in a year or two, you need to be building up to Bray Wyatt Taker at WrestleMania, as I had suggested before, you look at Bray Wyatt, that's a future WrestleMania main event type of opponent for an Undertaker, which is kind of the vision you should have when you're creating a character. Where can this guy go? Who can we put him up against? What type of shows can they be featured on? How high up on the card could they be? Who would be their main event type of opponents? You should be picturing all that stuff. And I look at Bray Wyatt, and a year ago, I'm like, man, this guy needs to be wrestling Taker at a future WrestleMania. I was all on board with it. And now I just don't give a shit. And again, maybe that's because of my dwindling, ever increasingly rapidly interest in professional wrestling. Maybe that's many different things. But the bottom line is, I just don't care about seeing the matchup. I just don't want to see it. Because I just don't see what it really brings to the table anymore. Because the whole thing about ending the streak, if you were going to end the streak, then you would think that would be it. Why would you sit there ending the streak if you're Vince McMahon? In part because, other than the fact that it was a completely impulse rash decision made by a senile, out of touch, increasingly impatient old man who needs to step aside, why would you have Taker lose? In part because you were afraid that he might not wrestle again, just to sit there and have him wrestle the very next damn year. It's just mind-blowing to me. It just makes absolutely no freaking sense. And now you get here in a position, in a point in time, where you have both Sting and Taker in the company. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't think the timing is perfect. And I don't nearly think that the timing is best. With that said, though, you still have the potential, with Sting finally under contract with the WWE and Taker still under contract with WWE, you still have the chance to do one of those really big feature type of what would happen if these two guys tangle type of matches with Sting versus The Undertaker at WrestleMania 31. You have the possibility to do that. You have the option to do that. And while I understand if you have Sting and Taker both in the fold, you might want to get two big money matches out of these guys at WrestleMania as opposed to having one mega money match out of them. I get that. But damn it all, how obtuse can we possibly be? You finally have Sting there. You still have Taker there. Whether the timing is perfect or not is irrelevant at this point in time. If you were going to have Taker wrestle any more WrestleMania matches, I'm sorry, it doesn't make any sense to have him go against a young guy because the appeal of beating a Taker at WrestleMania now, frankly, wouldn't mean as much. You gotta go Sting versus Taker. The WWE's done this shit before. You have Austin and Hogan in the company at the same time, and you never have them touch. Back in the day, after a decade of argument of who was the best and who would win between Hulk Hogan and Ric Flair, you've got Hulk Hogan and Ric Flair in the damn company. You're on the road to WrestleMania 8. Flair's the champion. Hogan's the babyface. It's like, you gotta fucking do this match. But instead of giving you that one mega monster special attraction once in a lifetime match of Hogan versus Flair for the title at WrestleMania 8, You get Savage versus Flair for the title buried in the middle of the damn show, and you get Sid versus Hogan in the main event. And that's what I would kind of compare WrestleMania 31 to. If you did Sting versus Triple H and Taker versus Bray Wyatt, it would feel very much like that. How possibly stupid can you be if you have both Sting and Taker in the company at the same damn time to not do that fucking match? Now, Sting versus Triple H could potentially, in theory, have some appeal. And on the flip side, for many, Undertaker versus Bray Wyatt might have some appeal. But when I look personally, from my own perspective, for myself, I just don't see where the company's going to get a tremendous amount of return out of it. Because if you have Taker wrestle Bray Wyatt and Taker wins, well, then why the fuck did you have the streak in? And why the fuck did you send Bray Wyatt at him? Furthermore, Bray Wyatt's character is in nowhere near a position to be able to actually be a legitimate, credible threat to The Undertaker at WrestleMania. And if he did win, now you're pissing the people off because Taker's lost 2 straight years at Mania. Now Bray Wyatt's going to be associated with that crap. And you're going to be trying to force the fans to continue to boo a guy that they continuously want to cheer. Why would you go against the grain like this? And you look at Sting and you look at Triple H. How is that really helping your company long term? Yeah, you could sit there and say it's a what would happen match, but when you think about Sting, some people might have said they wonder what would have happened if Sting and Triple H wrestled back in the day, both kind of in their primes, but that wasn't the match. The match was always Sting versus Taker, and what would happen if these two guys get together? You have one shot, and you have one opportunity to actually deliver that special type of I never thought I would see this at WrestleMania type match. And here's the WWE with a golden opportunity staring them right in the fucking face and managing to find a way, rumor has it, to potentially screw it all the fuck up. If you're just going to sit there and do Sting versus Triple H at WrestleMania 31, then I could pass on having Taker wrestle a match at all. Because I got to be honest, Taker, and I saw it this year at WrestleMania in particular against Lesnar, he wasn't that good. Who's to say that Taker and Bray Wyatt would even be a good match? It might very well be a bad match. And if that's the case, the guy only has to wrestle one match a year and he can't even put up a good match anymore, and you no longer have the streak associated with him, you no longer have the streak to market, and he no longer has the streak as his primary purpose and reason for continuing to be in the WWE, then why even go there? It's bad enough that at this moment, my last memory of The Undertaker in the WWE is the streak ending at WrestleMania 30. I don't want to have an even worse memory of him wrestling a Bray Wyatt at WrestleMania 31, looking even more old and broken and beaten down, and losing to somebody like fucking Bray Wyatt, who isn't even close to being in that damn category of performer. I could sit there and talk about wanting to build new stars and all of this and all of that, and that's great, and I agree. There's very few people that beat that drum more than I do. But damn it all, we have to be realistic. That would almost be like sending Dolph Ziggler against The Undertaker at this point. Sorry to throw your boy under the bus, but it's the truth. You'd fart all over that shit if they threw Ziggler at The Undertaker. And I most certainly wouldn't want to fucking see that. And I don't want to see Taker wrestle Bray Wyatt. At this point in time, if I'm going to have to see Taker wrestle another WrestleMania match, then I want the match that I actually have wanted for fucking years, for over 20 damn years or close damn to it. I want to see Sting versus The Undertaker at WrestleMania 31. It's either that or nothing at all for me. And if I don't get that, then I don't know if I'm going to give a fuck about Sting wrestling a match against somebody else like Triple H or Undertaker wrestling a match against any fucking buddy else. And furthermore, from a storytelling component, especially if you're not going to have Lesnar carry that belt into WrestleMania, if you were going to bring Taker back to wrestle another match, maybe you would at least think you would want him to wrestle Lesnar again to have some type of storytelling component, kind of like what he did with Shawn Michaels at 25 and 26, where maybe Undertaker tries to get his revenge. And frankly, if it's Lesnar's last night in the company, which it could potentially damn well be, then at least you could give Taker the win back and you can have him ride off into the sunset. There's just no appeal to Undertaker versus Bray Wyatt. WWE. You had the chance to do Austin and Hogan and you didn't. You had the chance to do Hogan and Flair, and you fucking didn't. You have the chance now to do Sting versus goddamn Undertaker at WrestleMania. Fucking do it!